It's Wednesday, June 24th, 2026. You're listening to the DX Today AI Daily Brief. Today, Anthropic moves its most capable model behind a paywall. OpenAI declares war on software vulnerabilities. And SpaceX turns its supercomputer into a money machine. Let's get into it.
We begin with Anthropic. As of yesterday, June 23rd, Claude Fable 5 is no longer bundled into Pro, Max Team, and Enterprise subscriptions at no extra cost. The 13-day complimentary window has closed, and access now requires paid usage credits at $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens. That's double the price of Claude Opus 4.8. The change lands at a sensitive moment just weeks after Fable 5 was knocked offline for nearly a week under a government export control directive. Anthropic says it will fold the model back into standard subscriptions once compute capacity allows. But for now, enterprises are pricing premium AI into their budgets for the first time.
From pricing to cyber defense.
OpenAI has launched its most aggressive cybersecurity push yet. The company released the full version of GPT 5.5 Cyber, a defensive security model that scored 85.6% on the CyberGym benchmark, alongside a new initiative called Patch the Planet. Built with Trail of Bits and HackerOne, the program pairs expert researchers with OpenAI models to fix vulnerabilities in critical open-source projects. More than 30 projects have signed on, including Curl, Python, and Go. In an early 5-day sprint, the system surfaced hundreds of security issues and merged dozens of patches. It's a direct answer to Anthropic's Project Glasswing, and a bet that cybersecurity is where frontier AI proves its worth.
Google enters the frontier race.
Google's Gemini 3.5 Pro has entered its general availability window, with analysts expecting a full launch between now and the end of June. The headline specification is a 2 million token context window, the largest of any production frontier model, double that of Gemini 3.5 Flash. A single call can ingest an entire large codebase or years of corporate communications at once. The model also introduces a reasoning mode called Deep Think, gated to the $250 a month Ultra tier. The timing is deliberate. With Fable 5 now behind a paywall, Google is moving to capture the late June attention cycle, though its credibility rides on shipping before its self-imposed deadline passes.
Now to a major infrastructure deal.
SpaceX has signed a compute deal worth up to $6.3 billion with Reflection AI, an open-source startup backed by NVIDIA and valued at $25 billion. Reflection will pay $150 million a month, starting July 1st, for access to NVIDIA's latest GB300 chips at the Colossus 2 data center near Memphis. The contract runs through 2029. With this deal, SpaceX has now signed more than $80 billion in committed compute revenue in roughly 2 months, transforming Colossus from an internal training cluster into a commercial cloud business rivaling Amazon and Microsoft. Notably, SpaceX shares fell 10% on the news, as analysts questioned the thin margins of renting out compute.
The human cost of the build-out.
Oracle has disclosed that it cut roughly 21,000 jobs over the past year, nearly 13% of its workforce, and it tied those reductions directly to artificial intelligence. In a financial filing, the company stated that the adoption and deployment of AI technologies across its operations have resulted, and may continue to result, in reductions to its workforce. Oracle joins a growing list, including Meta, Microsoft, and GitLab, that have cited AI as a driver of restructuring. As of this week, more than half of all layoff events tracked in 2026 explicitly name automation or machine learning. The savings, in Oracle's case, are being redirected toward an aggressive data center expansion.
A stark warning from intelligence officials.
Intelligence agencies across the Five Eyes Alliance, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, issued an unusual joint warning this week. Officials say some frontier AI models are months, not years, away from being able to launch cyber attacks powerful enough to overwhelm governments and major corporations. The concern is that the same capabilities making AI useful for defense, deep code analysis, and vulnerability discovery can be turned to offense. The warning gives weight to recent government moves, including the brief export control suspension of Anthropic's most advanced models. It also explains why labs like OpenAI and Anthropic are racing to position their systems as defensive tools, building goodwill before regulators act.
Apple weighs a big move.
Apple may finally be ready to buy its way into the AI race. According to a report from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, the company is weighing acquisitions of major AI startups with Perplexity, Mistral, Cohere, Sierra, and Databricks all named as potential targets. The reporting underscores how far behind Apple has fallen on generative AI, particularly with a long-delayed overhaul of Siri. Apple has historically favored small, quiet acquisitions, but Gurman suggests the company will likely need a far larger deal to close the gap with OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic. A purchase of Perplexity or Mistral would be among the biggest in Apple's history, and a sharp departure from its usual playbook.
Big money for AI infrastructure.
The funding taps remain wide open for companies building the plumbing of artificial intelligence. Bastin, which provides infrastructure for running AI models in production, has closed a $1.5 billion Series F round. The financing reflects surging demand for inference, the work of actually serving AI models to users at scale, as opposed to training them. As enterprises move from experimenting with AI to deploying it in real products, the cost and reliability of inference has become a central concern. Bastin's raise is one of the largest of the week and a clear signal that investors see model serving, not just model building, as a durable and defensible business in its own right.
Europe bets on defense tech.
Over in Berlin, defense startup Stark has raised 500 million euros, lifting its valuation above 3.5 billion euros just 2 years after launch. The round was led by Sequoia and Founders Fund, with the NATO Innovation Fund also participating. Stark builds AI-enabled drones and electronic warfare systems, and it plans to pour more than 80% of the new capital into research and manufacturing. It's a striking reversal of the asset-light software playbook that defined the last venture cycle. The deal sits at the intersection of Europe's defense rearmament and a renewed investor appetite for dual-use technology, and signals that sovereign tech now means factories as much as code.
AI moves into government.
Peregrine Technologies has raised $250 million in a Series D round that values the company at $6.8 billion. Peregrine helps governments unify fragmented, siloed data inside a permission-aware system, then uses that context to support decisions in public safety and emergency response. The round, led by existing backers including Sequoia, reflects a broader theme in this week's funding. Investors are paying up for AI that owns a real workflow inside high-stakes operations, rather than software that simply adds a model layer at the edge. Peregrine has moved from state and local agencies into federal and international markets, and its valuation has nearly tripled since its last raise.
Healthcare AI scales up.
Cadence has closed a $100 million Series C round, valuing the chronic care company at roughly $1.23 billion. Cadence manages chronic disease for older adults using supervised AI agents, remote monitoring, and direct integration with health systems. The company now works with more than 20 health systems, treats over 100,000 active patients, and says it saves Medicare roughly $2.7 million every week. Led by Spark Capital, the round reflects a shift in healthcare AI from pilot projects into scaled operating infrastructure. Cadence isn't selling AI as a productivity overlay for clinicians. It's trying to become part of the care delivery stack itself with reimbursement to match.
And finally, AI for the trades.
Our last story, ProBook has raised $40 million to bring artificial intelligence to home services. Backed by Andreessen Horowitz and Sequoia, the company built its product around Dispatch, the engine that decides which technician goes where, when, and at what cost. Rather than chasing the crowded market for voice assistants, ProBook is targeting the decision layer inside heating, plumbing, and electrical businesses. The logic is classic vertical software, updated for the agent era. Own the part of the workflow that everything else bends around, and expansion into scheduling, messaging, and billing follows naturally. The company says it already runs across hundreds of locations nationwide.
That's your briefing for Wednesday, June 24th, 2026. For DX Today, stay curious.